All right. In the lesson today, there's a couple of different selection tools that we're going to go over. But first, I wanted to do a little bit more about the workspace. You can see that my workspace is fairly typical for photography. I can change the look of it here if I just click through here. If I were doing photography, you can see different. This is a different layout completely. And I'm going to leave it here. So these double chevrons over here will open and close my windows, so it'll expand it. If I want to change anything or move them around, you can see I can take one of the buttons and I can move it at a different position. I can also move it to the larger preview window over here. Each of these, you can see here, it'll open up to the inside, and then this opens up just in the vertical position. So you can see that all of these are open. So I'm going to close this again. All of these tools that are here are also in the window panel. So these are where they all live. So if you don't see them over here and you want to, especially the toolbar right here, this is the toolbar that it's talking about. If that's not checked, the tools won't show. Now let's say I get everything that in a place that I want it to be. I like how my layers are set. I like where everything is. I can create a new workspace. So I can name this a new workspace. It'll show up here, and then by doing that, I can customize my Photoshop workspace. All right, so I'm going to leave the layers panel open. Actually, I'm going to open this up a little bit more, and I am going to move these buttons into the smaller one. There we go. I want to see the layers a little bit more clearly. There we go. So now we're going to go through making selections. So here's our background layer. All of these shells and seascapes we're going to take, and we're going to move up to the top portion here into the letter spaces. So A, B, E, C. This one here is, I don't know where that one is, but then the shell is D, and I think we'll just move this wherever we want to. All right, so our selection tools. We have our move tool up top. V on the keyboard will make this selection right away. My marquee tools here, I have a rectangular marquee and an elliptical marquee. If I hit M at any time, it will jump down to that selection. I also now have my freehand tools, the lasso tools. This is where you just draw a piece in and it will draw you straight lines. Each time I change the angle of that line, I have to make a click or hit the mouse. There we go. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect it. This one right here is the selections here. Quick selection will grab a shape. Magic wand will grab a color. So if I'm on the magic wand tool and I click red, it should select all the red. Command D. If I go over to the gold, there's some different colors in here. It's not going to select all of the gold. It's selected most of it. If I want to add to the selection, I can go up to here, and you can see this will add to the selection, subtract from the selection. And I believe that splits the selection, but we'll get here. I'm going to add to the selection. So then if I just click right there, I'm telling Photoshop to click and look at those pieces and select those. But notice how this deselected. So I'm going to select it out. And now it got away from me. There we go. All right. That's pretty good. It's still not perfect with that piece, so I'd have to go back and forth to keep adding and subtracting to the selection. All right, I'm going to select the sand dollar first. So I'm going to go up to my quick selection tool. I like using this the best. It's really a pretty good tool to use. I can add or subtract to the selection. I can change the hardness of my brush. I'm going to click once and drag out, and it automatically selected that circle. It's pretty defined. I'm going to go to my move tool, and you can see those scissors just appeared. and I can move this silver dollar here. Now, if I at any time before I hit deselect, if I wanted to change the size of that, I could go Command T, and that is actually a free transform, and I can change the size of that image right there. So that selection is, I can change the size. I have to reselect it if I want to change it again. So I'm just going to hit enter and Command D to deselect. So there's the silver dollar. Notice now if I click it, it is part of that background. I can't move it without selecting it again. The next piece I want to select, I'm going to use the circle marquee, and this one can be a little difficult because it's not a perfect circle, but as I make that selection, I'll go from the corner to the ends. If I hit the space bar, I can actually move that and keep repositioning that circle to make it the right size. There we go. Again, if I hit V, I'll go to the move tool, automatically jumps up there. Scissors are showing, and I can move it right over there. Now, because I'm not making any new layers, I can't do any effects to these, like drop shadows or things like that. I think that's why the drop shadows are already there in this. So I'm going to hit there, Command D to place it, and that'll move it there. Now, the same works for the rectangular marquee. If I needed to move that, I could just hit the space bar and then continue with the selection. There we go. And again, if I needed to move this, you could see the arrows. It's black because there's nothing underneath this background. Command D to deselect, Command Z to undo it. All right, something just fell off my shelf. We're going to go into the lasso tool, and we're actually going to select this muscle here. So I'm going to go to the lasso tool. I have the best luck with the magnetic lasso tool, but we can use really any of them here. You can see with this here, what I'm doing is I'm just holding down and I'm drawing around an edge. This goes right where you tell it to, right where the arrow is. Command D to deselect. I like using the magnetic lasso. It's got a little like magnet icon with it. I hit Command plus to zoom in, space bar, and I can move down to that muscle. So there we go. I'm going to click, and I only have to click once, and I'm going to follow the edge of the muscle, and it's going to stay on the edge. It finds the difference, I believe, in just colors between the background and the object. If I click every once in a while, it'll add an anchor point. It does do that automatically, though. This one's really easy. All of these selections here are really easy to like jump away from you. All of a sudden they find a different edge and they decide they want to go there, and this object becomes just very different shape. So you want to go kind of slow, and then when I get to the end, I'm going to hit the mouse button, so just a left click and that'll close the selection. If I want to add to it, I'm going to click the add button, and you can see here I can just go into that selection there, and once I double click it, it will add that piece to the selection. You're going to have to play around with it just a little bit. I can also feather the edges. So what this is going to do is feathered edges will change some of the sharpness on the edges. So I'm going to leave it at 0. I'm going to go to my move tool, and you can see right there I'm going to move it, and I'm just scrolling up. Command minus. Alright, so here, doesn't fit. So I need to transform it. So I'm going to hit Command T. That's actually also under the edit. You can see I'm under free transform. And if I go to the corner here, I get my arrows, so I can turn it and then move it. Now, with that transform selected, if I went to the edit tool and I went to transform and I wanted to change, let's say, the perspective, click there. And now what this is going to do is it's going to move the corners. So it's going to act as if it were on a three-dimensional plane. And I can change how that affects the image. Command Z to undo. And then I can go through and I can check with the distort. And again, it's going to just bring in one edge. So I can distort that. Command Z. But I just want to leave it just as a plain old muscle. And I'm going to set it there and just hit enter. Now Command deselect to deselect it. All right. I want you to play around with the rest of the selections. This one will probably be the hardest because it's got a jagged edge. Play around with the selections there and move them up to the final picture. On the tutorial, the actual text, it gives you some different strategies for making selections of some of the other objects. Good luck.